Right, and we are live. Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is a Thursday night, and it is the return to the regular fan forum slot because we were last live last week Wednesday for the fan forum, and as you can see, we've got a full panel tonight. We have got a pretty international panel as well. We've got the return of the stash. Wes is joining us from Botswana. We've got Chris, who's back on the show. The betting segment is coming back tonight, all the way from the UK now. And then we've got Rian and myself all the way from sunny South Africa as we freeze our arses off here in what has been a pretty ridiculous week in Johannesburg.
How
are we?
Good. Glad to be back.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've had. I mean, to be fair, it's been a while since we've done the fan forum, so it's been a while since any of you guys have been on. So it's good to be back. It is good to be back, and hopefully it'll all work out. Basically, now we're going to keep going from now straight through the World Cup. So it's going to be a busy time for the fan forum, and so much to talk about. I don't know what we're going to be able to. I don't know how we're going to be able to do this during the World Cup, but we've got like 8 to 9 games in between shows. But we'll endeavour to do our very
more
best.
Shows.
Yeah, there we go. Stop doing like a daily show. It's going to be that much rugby. I was watching 48 games in like 7 weeks. It's going to be rugby mad, but it should be a lot of fun.
Bliss.
Yeah, right, chaps. Let's get into it, shall we? We had a pretty interesting week last week, and Chris, we'll go to you first. What did you make of the Springbok performance, the lack of Wallaby performance? How good was the Boks? How bad was Australia?
I think. Well, let's be honest. I think most of us were pretty surprised with that result for sure. It was a good betting day as well. So I was having my first bribe back with my mates. So it was a really, really good day all around for me. The Boks were impressive for sure. And Australia were as woefully bad, and surprisingly so. I thought before the game that the Boks could get on a roll at Loftus. They often can. Australia obviously scored that first try, and I think we all were going, "Oh no, problem. Yeah, we go." As our bogey side, but we pulled together. I'm sure we're going to, but this is a bit of a different side, and the Boks, the 10. He was against England and he came on against Italy in our last 3 games. I think, the way we play, it's so interesting, because it's going to be very contradictory to Saturday. I know we'll probably get into Saturday, but we don't play like that week in, week out. But what is nice to see, there seems to be progression in the Boks, definitely attack and play. We always seem we're going to defend well, but it's just really good to see that even the commentators and John de Villiers are calling out how we are changing things up in certain parts of the game and areas of the field. So it was amazing. Really great. Poor Australia. We should be excited. We should be happy. It's great. But hey, we've got New Zealand this week. There's still lots to come. We could take a lot from that game. The Saturday is going to be awesome. But yeah, it was really, really good to see the Boks play like that. It's such a shame guys like Moody and Orange don't have the starting burst just yet. But their time is definitely coming. But it's good times for South Africa, sure.
And someone who managed to witness it firsthand was Rian, who was on the verandas and cloak and in the stands of Loftus. Loftus must have been absolutely heaving.
Oh, it was pumping, guys. If you had to choose between going to Ultrafest or a rugby game at Loftus, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It's basically a EDM concert and rugby happens on the side. That's inside the stadium, and then outside is Aardklop and Potch. It's stallikies everywhere, Mampur going, people in parkas and fallies. It is a massive jewel. I don't know. Apparently they changed their braai and their beer tent areas from like an old smaller field to the B field now. And we walked in, it looked like 50,000 people were all braaiing together. It was insane. It was great to watch. And then we went into the stadium, and as Chris said, Australia they pitched up for that first 5 minutes, and then the Boks just started their game plan going, and they couldn't live with them. It was beautiful to watch. Pure physicality, just tackling the lights out, running hard, and Australia just couldn't take it. It was so good.
Yeah, I'm very jealous. As I said, I was there on Friday for the captain's run, and I parked by the B field, and I was there about an hour early, so I just walked around the B field. And I was just like, this mental, just what they had said.
Yeah.
There was I don't know if there were two stages, but there was one big stage that was put up. Looked like they were putting up another stage. The amount of tables and bars that they were erecting. It looked like a fan park. So it was very, very cool. We probably won't have something like that at Ellis in 2 weeks' time. There just isn't really the space that they have. But yeah, that Argentina game should be interesting because it's the last game before we do Jet Talk. So it's the last opportunity for people to watch us on home soil. So hopefully we will see some people there. But let's talk a little bit more about sort of performance and specifics. And let's start with sort of Australia. A new era for Eddie Jones. Look, I don't think we can read too much into that game. It was his first game, but I think we were all quite surprised. I don't think any of us expected them to be, at their best immediately, but I think it's safe to say we didn't expect them to be that bad.
No, I think absolutely right. I appreciate you saying, tough ask for Eddie or any coach really coming in against the Boks at home at Loftus as their first sort of trial. But as you said, Steve, absolutely didn't expect them to be quite that bad. To be honest, they reminded me a little bit of almost South African rugby in a way where they've been told to do something and they're just going to do that to the death, even if it's not working. So for me, what was really encouraging about South African play I saw on Saturday was we were creative, we tried different things, we had multifaceted, but the Aussies just, were told, it seemed like they were told to do one thing, and they did that thing, and it worked once, and then it stopped working because we clicked onto it, and they just did that same thing over and over again, and they just couldn't find the same way through. So yeah, that for me was I was glad to see that we've moved past that, but yeah, it was tough for the Australians in Pretoria.
And I mean, South Africa being a very sort of defense-orientated side, we're a side that we don't mind not having the ball, we don't mind having to defend a lot of the time. There were worries in the last sort of 2 years that we kind of hadn't, we kind of lost our touch when it came to the defense that we saw in 2019. What I mean, you just said us being able to manage and to adapt towards Australia. Were you quite happy with what you saw from the South African defense, and do you think we're sort of getting ourselves back to the standards that we saw 4 years ago?
Oh, so 4 years there?
Yeah, so I think Wes just dropped off a bit. Yeah. This is the problem with Botswana. Hey, I mean, we talk about infrastructure. Life in the bush is tough. So we'll get Wes back on as soon as he unfreezes. But I'll divert that question back to you, Chris. Are you happy with the Boks defense? And do you think that we're back to getting close back to our best?
Yes. I don't think we're quite at like as we were last World Cup time, but I think when it comes World Cup time and it's time to win in an important game, it will be there. So I'm not overly concerned, but yeah, we are a little bit more shaky. But we made more changes. We've got more attack-minded players. It's a bit of a different team. So yeah, I'm not overly concerned about defense this year. It will be interesting to see again Saturday. But again, it's the more defensive team. So I'm expecting them to try hold out what is certainly going to be all black blitz on Saturday.
Right, and I think Wes is back. So Wes, what I was saying is. We spoke about the South African defense adapting to Australia, and let's see if we continue. What did you make of the defense, and do you think we're making strides in the right direction towards it?
No, I don't think he's hearing us.
That was brutal.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see what we can get. I don't think he can hear us at the moment. So
maybe you have to go back in and out. Yeah.
Yeah. So once Wes returns, we'll move. But okay, cool. So let's move away from the Boks and the Australia game. I mean, this said, I think we can read a certain amount into the game. I think there's a certain amount that we can't read with regards to probably a bit of both the situation of the Boks playing well, Australia playing badly. But there was also obviously another game over in Mendoza, and it was an interesting game because that first 20 minutes, Argentina basically didn't arrive. In fact, they might as well not have run to the park. They had one good moment where McKenzie was charged down and they almost scored within a minute, and after that, it was almost it kind of reminded me of sort of the vintage All Blacks, where literally like one missed tackle and bang, they were over. One sort of mistake, bang, they were over. And all of a sudden, the All Blacks had scored 3 tries in, I think it was about 15. I think it was about 12 or 13 minutes that Jordy Barrett actually went over for that third try. Rion, I mean, obviously Argentina is a side that that they do take a while to get going. And again, a bit like the Australia, I don't think you can read too much into that. But how impressive were New Zealand in that sort of opening 20 minutes in terms of as soon as an opportunity they were taking it and converting?
Yeah, I think a big issue is of New Zealand is obviously extremely good. You could tell they were using what's his name, Aaron Smith's long pass on Saturday. He was sending it out into the second channel, past the 10, and then a forward could catch it, run it up, and he'd do a pop pass to get a runner next to him onto an inside shoulder. They were doing it so quick because they're so used to playing together that the Argentines were just not there. And I've said it before, Argentina need to try and schedule a game the weekend before the Rugby Championship starts, because I've looked at the stats from 2012 when they joined until now. They've only won an opening game ever, but their average score on their opening match is something like 43-12 or something like that they lose it. They are just not there in that first game. And New Zealand knew it. They knew if they play fast, Argentina wouldn't be switched on and they get through them easily, and that's exactly what happened. I would say Argentina needs to look at if they don't have the Jaguares playing in Super Rugby anymore, they need to find cohesion some other way, because just showing up and playing the All Blacks after some of your guys haven't played since Jan is not going to work. Some of those guys on that team haven't played since Jan or Feb, like multiple players there. So you can't show up to the All Blacks and do that.
Yeah, it's a problem for them, and I think it's one of the big issues that they have structurally within, and it's probably one of the reasons that's holding them back. I mean, we've seen those Argentinian performances when they beat the All Blacks in Christchurch, and they've had those days, and you sit there thinking these guys could really be world beaters if they can find that consistency and they can get going from the get go. Chris, your sort of take a bit.
I think yes. I mean, New Zealand, exactly what Ryan said. I mean, they came out the blocks. So again, probably unexpected. I expected Argentina to be the one out the blocks, and then New Zealand probably wear them down. But you made a good point there, Ryan. I think the Jaguars, what you would have called them, not in Super Rugby anymore, is a big difference, because they did really well. They made that final. They were getting week in, week out that high quality play. And now that they're not there anymore, you can see that physicality and level is dropping off. You can. I know we have this fantasy. We love Argentina. It's all our second, third team. But let's be honest, they've struggled the last 12 months, and I do actually fear for them. Yeah, sure, they're going to put in good games, but you can see their levels tapered off since they've left Super Rugby. I think that was critical. I think they need to get back into that Super Rugby competition as fast as they can, even if it's the Australian, New Zealand teams. But they need that to be playing at that level. So New Zealand. I mean, I did catch the first half, missed the second, but New Zealand look good. I mean, New Zealand's, they're not a bad team overnight. And it does, you want to write them off, fine. But I think at the moment, combinations are important. And I think Geordie Barrett at 12, even D-Mac at 10. Obviously, he's not playing, but I think those, at the moment, with the players that New Zealand have, combinations are important. So I think, again, we'll see a different kind of New Zealand style. But D-Mac and Barrett and Oni took them out wide to pieces. So, second half again. I think we'll go to preview. I mean, again, New Zealand's second half is an issue, I think, and we can discuss that in our preview. But I think they stepped, which is not. This is what's surprising about this New Zealand side. Normally, they would put the foot down and go through to a 50-60 win, but why they didn't do that is also must be concerning for them.
Yeah, so I mean, now that Wes seems to be back and I think can hear us as well, we'll talk a little about that second half, because it's that Argentina side were woeful in the first half, but second half kind of looked a bit like a new team. They actually saw us had a bit of attacking shape. They looked like they had a bit of defensive shape. We saw them, a couple of people, rushing out. They
won the second half, I think.
They did. Yeah, they
did. Yeah.
So Wes, if you can hear us, and if we can hear you, that second half performance from Argentina, do you think that was quite a nice positive for them in terms of taking a step forward? But also similarly, is there a concern about the All Blacks that they might not have that ruthlessness that they might have had a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think definitely from an Argentinian perspective, you could look at it as a positive way to end the game, and much better to end the game that way. But from a competitive standpoint, as a player, I would have gone, well, why couldn't we do that in the first half? If we can put a performance like that together in the second half, where we can hold our own and we can, play in such a way, Why was that not possible in the first half, boys? Like that's it would be positive if we ended that way, but I'd be frustrated as an Argentinian player saying, well, why then? From a New Zealand side, sort of side of things, rather, yeah, potentially an area of concern for them. They need to know that it's a an 80-minute game, 40-minute halves, and that they cannot let the gas off at any point, because there will be teams, that will come back harder in the second half and take it to the 80th minute, and they need to know they can go the full 80. So, yeah, potentially an area to watch for them.
Yeah, so we'll talk a little about that when we start to look at this weekend. But also people that are watching, please do jump in the comments. We've got a couple of comments in the chat at the moment. Arj Barge saying goal kicking only could serve for the Boks. We'll talk about that a bit now. Michelle says difficult to say as both teams were not really challenged in the previous games. So when New Zealand Boks really so good or the opposition just bad. Again, we'll talk about that a bit now. And Cammie saying that she's got faith in our boys. It's going to be tough. It can go anywhere, but I think we are solid. Michelle then saying, I'd love to see Mighty Bugger 10 against New Zealand as a real test to see if he can stand up to the real challenge. He was good on Saturday, but I feel it was not a challenge. Chaps, let's talk about Saturday, shall we? We had the first round of Rugby Championship. And again, I think almost every half was something a bit different. So we've seen so far a good New Zealand performance, a good South Africa performance, a pretty woeful Wallaby performance, a very iffy Argentina performance. I think it's probably quite cool that Argentina and Australia were both playing each other this weekend, so they'll be able to sort of respond. And then on the back of two sort of 40 plus, or scoring 40 plus in their wins, South Africa versus New Zealand. Before we sort of talk about the actual clash, let's talk about the South African team, shall we? And quite a few changes expected. So it's the same front row, but apart from that, it's a very different pack. I'm David Delindi back in the centres. David Willems at 10. There's a lot to pick apart here. Let's start with the pack, Wes. Is this pack going to bully the All Blacks? Can they bully the All Blacks?
Cool.
Yeah, instinct as a South African is to say, of course we can, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it is a solid pack. I think, not just the Oaks starting. I think if you look at the guys on the bench, which we'll get to, but there are some big, strong boys in this side. So now I'm excited to see this pack at work, and I think what I'm keen to see is our lineouts as well. That was my one area for our game against Oz, where we weren't as clinical as we should have been. We lost a few line-out balls, but now back with good old Lurt and Eben in the center, the locks there. I'm keen to see how our line-outs look and how clinical we can be.
Yeah, I think obviously Franco Masters as well as another line-out jumper. There's options there, which is very cool. For me, and the weird thing for me with last week is that Marvin Ory is a quality operator when it comes to the lineouts, but I felt that Bongi just didn't quite seem to be on song, which is very, very weird for Bongi Manambi.
He's supposed to be the guy.
Well, that was the thing. You go back 4 years ago, and Malcolm Marx was starting most games, and then was throwing terribly, and then they started saying, right, well, let's start Bongi and see if that still starts working, and all of a sudden that was sort of a set piece of it. So it was interesting to see that our most reliable lineout thrower was off the mark, but he is somebody who works very hard, and I'm not too worried about him this weekend. Rian, let's talk a little bit about that loose trio. Two former Lions boys in there. So, Kwagga Smith playing against the side where he just always seems to play well. He even said himself, he said he loves playing against the All Blacks. Franco Moster at number 7, and then Jasper Wiese, the wrecking ball. It's an exciting loose trio, but it's a very different loose trio, I suppose, what we used to.
Yeah, no, I've heard a few people say that why is Franco Moster there? People forget to put respect on his name. I don't know why we wouldn't pick him. He's one of the most best tacklers in our team, and he makes 20 tackles a game with a smile on his face. Obviously, Kwagga, speed, I think he's there almost as a matchup for Artie Sevilla. He might not be as strong, but he's faster. He also fights in the tackle. He's excellent at ripping balls. So if you go in high, carrying on him, he often rips the ball out of the hand. So I'm very happy with those two guys there. And then Wiese, he's the biggest ball carrier in Europe, basically. Maybe only Gregory Aldrich carries more than him. So I'm very excited to see a South African scrum, nice and stable, and then Wiese picking it up off the back and just going. I've been watching him play for the Leicester Tigers. He's actually picked up a little bit of speed in the last few months. He's actually gotten faster, and he's been offloading as well, which is very nice to see. So I'm keen to see if they bring, like the team here in South Africa did at Loftus, if they all bring something a little different, because we all think that this is the the dense, the heavy box side that's there to kill you with physicality. But I'm hoping to see a little bit of finesse as well. Maybe a little offload from Visa or Kwacha getting the ball a bit wider out, just to see if we can put some doubt in the minds of the New Zealanders.
Yeah, I think that was for me was something quite interesting about last week is that we did see a lot of offloading from our forwards. I mean, I think it built up to one of the Orange tries, but Marvin Ori, loose ball on the floor, he got there early, and his immediate thought was to try and offload it. A bit of a Stormers sort of thing coming through. Where I think 2 years ago, your immediate sort of thought as a block player would have been, right, I need to dive on this ball, I need to secure this ball, we'll reset, what do we do? But, we don't really play in broken play. So that seems to be a bit of a shift of an attitude there. So, yeah, that's the pack, and it is a frighteningly good pack. I'm very excited to see exactly what it can do. Halfback pairing. So, Faf de Klerk starts. Chris, we're going to throw it to you because there was some Faf de Klerk disrespect in the well, not Faf de Klerk disrespect, but rather some Kobus Reinach fangirling, I'd say there. But the halfback pairing, Faf de Klerk and
this man and his Kobus Reinach love, please.
So, Chris, what's your take on the halfback pairing?
No, yeah, just personal opinion, guys. Just personal opinion. I feel Reinach has got more to offer as a scrum half than Faf, but Faf obviously suits the game plan what the coaches want perfectly. And I'm not disrespecting Faf's done his job. He's done well. I think if I wasn't the head coach, probably I would have been picking right. But that's just me. But Faf's great. Yeah, obviously Faf's played a lot of his rugby with old obviously Pollard. So Willems is a different ball games. I'm quite interested to see how this combination goes. I'm very, very keen to see Willems to go at 10. I love Willems. I've actually been still think he will be good at 12 with like a Lebok type of play inside him, because those guys feed off each other, that type of style. You can see it. It's organic. It's an instinct. And
that's next year's problem.
Yeah, I'll be interested.
Yeah.
That's 2027 combination.
Yeah, but it's going to be high pressure. It's going to be interesting because, Willems parts in the early part of his career did struggle. We saw him struggle under pressure and for Stormers and so on. So I think it's quite hectic that we chucked him at 10 for this game. A fullback 12, where he's done really well. But this is going to be interesting. Good to see it. I don't know how it's going to go. That's why I'm not overly confident about the Boks this weekend, just because it is New Zealand away. And that is an interesting combination. And going back to the forwards, I know we didn't touch on it, but it'll be interesting to see where Itzebeth's space is, because he hasn't played for a long time. His father passed away this week, so I wonder where his head is at. It'd be interesting. But I think I love Willems. He's the future. If they're thinking of him 10 long term, then this is fine to put him in there. That's why not give him a go. He's played enough. He's good enough, and I hope he goes well.
Yeah,
just
well,
I think
and we'll chat about that now. I think the biggest thing for me and with Willems at 10 at the end of last year and then this weekend, I think it's we all know now. I mean, Andre Pollard comes back in August and he'll start every game of the World Cup, bar maybe one. Maybe that Romanian game, but I mean, you can't really afford to take too many games for granted. So, I mean, Wes, how much do you think that this weekend? Obviously, this is the game that we want to win every single year. If there's one game you want to win, you want to beat the All Blacks, especially in New Zealand for us, which we actually haven't lost since 2008, 17, I think it was, which is quite cool. But do you think that this game is a case of, right, well, Damian Willems at this rate, we saw how important Billy is. It will likely be on the bench come the World Cup in that 6-2 split, covering in the France Stadium role, covering 10, 12, 15, even a better wing. So do you think this is the case of, right, well, we've got to put him at 10, because if Pollard goes down 10 minutes into the World Cup final, Willems is going to be running at 10, type of situation. So how much do you think that comes into it?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% there with you, Steve. Like, I think, as you said, as much as we want to win this game, because it's New Zealand, it's in New Zealand. If I offered you winning this game or winning the World Cup game in a quarter or semi or final against New Zealand, I think we're going to pick the World Cup game. So we need to give ourselves the best chance at winning that game down the road. And if that means starting Damian to blood him a bit, to get him used to that All Black intensity at 10 in case, give him the intensity of it all. Let him feel that now. I mean, even if we lose, like, again, I hope we don't lose. It's a tough ask for us to win that side, but even if we lose and he gains that experience so that he can come in, should something happen, unfortunately, to Pollard or whatever in the World Cup, I think that's a trade I'm happy to make.
And that, so obviously there's a lot of people talking. Recency bias has definitely come into in the last week with regards to certain people saying that certain players should be starting. Miley Bob not involved, is not starting, or a lot of people would have liked to have seen. I mean, this Bob coaching staff don't.
Where does that come from? I thought everyone thought he was useless. He can't be a Springbok. Now it's like, why is he not
No,
starting
that
against
was
New Zealand?
that was a month ago, Rion. How you get with the times, you know? Same thing as Marco van Staden, who even a week ago everybody said shouldn't be starting, shouldn't be in the box squad. Now it's, well, how is he starting ahead of
Where's
Marcus Smith?
Dupree
This makes
was starting there. Now he's
Yeah.
like,
But with how much? I mean, do you think that Liebach's got a chance of making that final Springbok 23 when you go to the World Cup, or do you think that we've pretty much got it nailed on 23? I think it's pretty close to the current 23 that we've got for Saturday. Once obviously a couple like your Pollards, Khaleesi's, a couple of players will come in. But do you think Liebach's got a chance to get to that 23, or do you think he's going to go to the World Cup and kind of be that Alton Yankees role where he might play one or two of the pool games, but come playoffs if everyone's fit won't feature?
It's so tough to say. Let's go along the lines of everyone's fit, right? So there's no injuries that he has to come in. So if we're going down that route, I think he has to go with, and he has to hopefully get a taste in some games. He might not feature majorly, again, if everyone's fit. But for me, it's long term. You can't keep thinking, about short term and this World Cup. We've got to start thinking about the next sort of journey. And if he can start to get that BMT, that big match temperament, I've played in some. Okay, I haven't played in the World Cup sort of level competitions, but played in big enough competitions where you saw the guys who came in their first time just be wide-eyed. There's a lot going on, and I can imagine it is 1,000-fold, for the World Cup, even for professionals. It is a Rugby World Cup, and is the highest you can do. So if we just give that little bit of exposure, and he can get there, and he can start to feel a bit more comfortable, then later down the line, we're going to reap the rewards of that. So for this World Cup, I mean, it'd be exciting to see him on the field. But again, we want to give ourselves the best chance to win now and later. And maybe it's a bit of a combination of playing him some and then, maybe not so much.
I think what would be interesting is and touch where it doesn't happen, if, for example, a Pollard were to go down during the World Cup, which unfortunately could be a reality. He's not somebody who hasn't had his injury issues in the last 4 years. What would be interesting is if he were to be ruled out and say an Alton Yankees comes into the squad, how much trust would they have? And obviously it'll depend on what he does in the next few games. Do they have in Liebach in the World Cup? Because we have sometimes seen this Bok coaching staff go, right, well, we know what, we've got to go back to try and test it. So it'll be interesting, if an Alton Yankees were to come into the squad in a World Cup situation where they suddenly go, shit, well, that guy's played in the World Cup, he's played in British and Irish Lions, we know what he can do. Yes, he's not the forward player. Yes, in theory, Liebach's ahead of him, but crunch situation, who do they go with? I think that for me would be a very interesting scenario, which hopefully we won't have to find out about. But
Steve, can I? Sorry, when you can. Just this Liebach. I mean, I mentioned earlier in the show, the last 2.5 halves of rugby this guy's played, the Springboks have been very good. Let's be honest. They've been on the front foot. He's let them play with abandon. He's letting the guys. I'm not saying that he's the right option, but what concerns me is if we go back into our shoal in a quarterfinal or semi, and it is Pollard, we're going to have another one kick game against Wales. And this much feels like there's more room for error. I know his kick is not as strong as Pollard, but I just feel that Liebach's the right cog for the players that we have. But I know we're going to go back to basically the team that won the World Cup last year. So we have to bear that in mind. It's just, I think what the whole thing is this is just throwing a spanner in the works, because if you think about it, they probably had Willemse as the backup to Pollard all along. We had Yankees then the third choice, but now we've lost Yankees falling off the cliff on form, and we've lost Frans Steyn. Probably Steyn was also the cover. So now we got Liebach, probably the form fly-up in the country, and Willemse is kind of fallen down the ranks of 10. So it's put the guys in a bit of a dilemma. But I've got the feeling at the moment, what I've seen from the squad, and what I've seen from the coach and stuff, I actually don't mind whoever is on the park at any point in time. I trust the players and I trust the coach and stuff. I trust whatever it always looks like we now have a plan and we know what we do and the players know what they're doing. So if it's Pollard, Willemse, Liebach, I'm going to back the boys to do what they've been asked to do. I just wonder, against Australia, it looked like there was a little bit of a nothing to lose attitude there as well, right? They were trying things. I wonder if they were given that license. It didn't look like they were told to it didn't look like let's scrum more, line up, boom. It looked like they were told, have a go, guys, and enjoy yourselves, and they certainly did.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get quite the same freedom this weekend.
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying.
And we shouldn't give them the same sort of freedom this weekend, because you turn over a ball in a dangerous position, and this All Black side, especially the one that's been named, which is a very good side, will punish them.
Yeah.
Speaking of people are very getting a bit edgy with, Andre Esterhuizen comes in and has an absolute blindery on in the centres, and all of a sudden people are now questioning Damien Delendi, which for me is like, it blows my mind when you think of how good this guy's been for how many years. For me, I don't understand why we can't go, what cheapest? Andre Esterhuizen was unbelievable. That means our second choice inside centre is unbelievable, but our first choice, Dukes, and back in the combination there, surely there's no pressure on Delendi at the moment.
No, there's none. What has he done wrong? He's done nothing wrong.
Exactly.
Man is still great just because Andre Esterhuizen is playing well. Yeah. Andre Esterhuizen is good. We're happy. It's good to see we have a man who can distribute, who can run over people, who can kick. Dukes can do all of that as well. So, and he's just as good at it, if not better. So, no, I don't think there should be pressure on him. Obviously, if he plays badly, then we can start having the conversation. But I'm happy. I'm happy with the Islanders staying there. He's played well for the last 4 years. He's one of our most consistent Boks. He's always picked. He's great over the ball as well. I haven't seen Andre Esterhuizen do a lot of steals. With the Islander, you can have him run in the tram lines if you're going wide to wide quickly, and he can clear a ruck for you.
He's basically
if your loose forwards can't get there.
Yeah, I mean, he's like having an extra flank at the back line.
Yeah. So just keep him. I'm happy with him. Andre Esterhuizen is a good backup to have, but sometimes you just can't fit everyone into the team. That's when you get things like Muanga, Barrett, D-Mac. How do we get them all into the team at the same time? Sometimes you just got to be like, sorry, man, we have someone already. Just hope he goes down, and that's just what you got to live with.
And Delendi has been one of the players that I mean, in the beginning he was very raw, but he's only been on like this upward trajectory. He's just getting like a fine wine. I think I was questioning whether he should be. But he's actually improved year on year on year. He's at his peak. He's at his prime. He needs to be the anchor in there, especially.
And when he's angry, last year when we played our second test against Australia, he was angry, and he was like the catalyst for us to hammer them in Australia. So, no, he's got to be there and try and get him angry as well, and we'll be doing well. We'll be golden.
Yeah. Now, speaking of somebody who I think is under pressure, and funny enough, we spoke about it a week ago, was good on the Pimps, and you got to feel sorry for the guy. He's got one of the most prolific try scoring records, not only in like Springbok history, but like in Test history. Like his try to game ratio is mental. But a week ago we talked about the fact that he was catching this unnecessary slander because obviously the form that Curtly Lawrence is in, and we said that at the end of the day it's Mapimpi's jersey. Until he starts playing badly in it, it's his jersey, and then Curtly Lawrence decides to go and score a hat trick. Whether it's fair or not, I think Mapimpi must sort of feel that he knows he has to perform, because there is a very capable replacement who is actually currently got a better try scoring record than him, and is itching to try and take that jersey away from him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's definitely a bit of heat coming from behind him, which is rare to hear with a name like Mapimpi there, and the speed he brings. But absolutely, I think this is a great problem to have. What we're discussing as well. As Rian was saying, you can't fit all the Oaks in the team at once. I mean, I'd much rather be stuck with this, spoiled for choice, where you've got guys chomping at the bit, sort of putting pressure on the guys who's in the team to perform. What you'll find is maybe some of that pressure can manifest a bit negatively. Oaks sort of get into their heads and they fall out. But we hope that doesn't happen, obviously. But it sort of weeds out the strongest players. And I think a name like Mapimpi, who's been to the big dance, who's probably had this pressure before, there've been guys who've maybe come for that spot before. He, as an athlete, as a what's the word I'm looking for, as like a competitive person, will see that as a challenge and hopefully rise to it, and we'll just even get more Mapimpi, which we can hope for.
Yeah, I do think that is kind of
more Mapimpi.
Yeah, and he is someone that's had to overcome obstacle over obstacle. I mean, I watched him for the first time down when he scored that hat-trick against the Sharks when he was playing for the EP Kings. Before then, he was actually playing for the Border Bulldogs, which is really sort of shows.
We lost Steve. It was a Mayan connection.
Well, I think everybody else is You're still hearing us, Chris. Everyone else
Is it
can
me?
hear me.
It's me. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
it's
you.
me.
You're
Sorry.
the problem. It's you.
Yeah, I've lost. Yeah, I'm the problem as usual. Yeah, I sorry, it was so weird. Wesley left and you left something, and I've seen myself move. So I
Take the hint, Chris. Take the hint. Well, Chris, I'll go to you now. So let's talk about the game, and we can bring the sort of the bomb squad into it. New Zealand have named a couple of big players back into their side. Brady Metallic has returned. Richie Mo'unga has come into the number 10. No D-Mac. Big core. An interesting bench to Marty Williams, 140 kg plus prop coming on to make his debut. Samasoi Takawau named on the bench.
Yeah.
It does look like it's a team that has been very specifically picked to play against the Springboks.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think how much do you think they can nullify the Bok game plan, and are we going to cope with what they've named?
Yeah, I think physically, So Takioka, when he came in that Ellis Park game last year, was a big difference for them, and I think he will do the same. I'm surprised he's not starting, to be honest. I think he might come on sooner than later if they are struggling. But you're right, they've picked their strongs at home. I think they're gonna come and play their game. To be honest, I think the game's gonna be tight. If you're gonna ask me how it's gonna go, we've picked a team that's gonna play tight. Maybe we probably might surprise them with a pass or whatever when they're not expecting it. But I think generally this is going to be another All Black Springbok humdinger, not more than 40, 45 points. And I think that's how it's going to go. I think this is probably their strongest team for the way they want to play against us. And it's not weak. I would never say it's a weak New Zealand team. I think also like these smaller grounds that we go to, we don't often actually do well as well. So. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be. I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be as easy for us as maybe some people are thinking with the recency bias. But just I can't wait for it.
And then Rian, no DMAC, which is an interesting call given last week. Geordie Barrett at 12. There's Mark Taylor coming, 2 new wings, and Mark Taylor coming into starting up. Will Jordan not at 15, at 14. That New Zealand backline's still pretty scary.
Yeah, I think it was a fair trade for us dropping Kirtley, that they would drop DMAC. You can't, we can't drop Kirtley and then they keep him. So that's a good trade. I'd take it. But it's weird. They've got Caleb Clark on the bench. Why would you have a strict winger on the bench?
Out and out winger. And especially, it's not like Caleb Clark, he's a good player, but he's not. He's very direct. He's very physical. He kind of is what he is. It's not like he's a very
unless they're going to spring a surprise on us, and maybe they'll spring a surprise, and all of a sudden Clark comes on at 12 or 13. He's had this in his pocket the whole time. But I don't understand why you would have Clark as a replacement. But that backline, as always, is quite scary. Bowden Barrett just loves beating the Springboks. I wish that man would just go away already. But my thing that I'm always scared of is their pack. I saw last week Jason Ryan is their new forwards coach, the guy who was under Scott Robertson. And you can just see this forward pack. There's something about a New Zealand forward pack that plays well. Their body position is lower. Their shoulders are together when they go into rucks. Latches are just a little bit better latched, more accurate. They're cleaning at the rucks, more accurate. So that's my biggest fear is these guys. They've got a coach who can get their forward pack to work hard, and so we're going to have to be very, very accurate to stop that. And then if the ball goes out wide, we just got to hope. Had a bit of a slow game last week. They got outside him a couple times. I hope he's on the ball because he's the guy that our defense hinges on. If he's on song, the All Blacks struggle to get the ball out. So for me, that's a 2-1. Nullify their pack, and it's all on you, man. I hope you're in a good space on Saturday.
A lot of people thought that Jesse Creel was going to be playing, and a lot of people seem to be relieved that he wasn't. Not that I actually wouldn't have minded Jesse Creel on Saturday. Simply as you talk about the defensive point of view, I think Jesse Creel is a brilliant defender. But before we go to the betting segment and let Chris tell us how he's going to win us all the money this weekend, Argentina versus Australia. The two teams that have to bounce back. Where's Oslo at home? It's a couple of big changes. It's a very strange bench. It's a very different bench to what we saw last week. Richie Arnold, Will Skelton completing what could be the biggest lock pairing ever. and a very new look loose trio as well with Fraser McWright and Jed Holloway. What do you make of Eddie's changes, and do you think it's going to be enough to try and inspire you can't get much worse, but a better performance?
Yeah, no, as you said, some interesting changes, but he's got to try something, right? And again, as we said, it was Eddie's first try and a tough opposition against the Boks, and now he's got Argentina, who's can also be tough if they decide to show up, which they have been over the last couple of games. I think it's a big call I'm about to make, but I think if Australia want to have a good World Cup, they have to win this game because they're at home. It's against what would traditionally be a weaker side. I'm saying traditionally. I'm not saying Argentina's are. We know they've gotten better, but from a mentality, confidence point of view, if the Wallabies struggle to get a confident win performance at home against this side, I think it's going to be a tough ask for them in the World Cup.
Yeah, and then Chris, Argentina, what do they need to do better? It's Argentina. They're such a strange side because, as I said, they can have moments of absolute brilliance and then moments of absolute. I mean, they can go from tier 1 top nation to tier 2, tier 3 nation very quickly.
Yeah. Well, they got to bring that fire, that Pablo Matera fire when they would get themselves up against, when they were beating the All Blacks, giving those All Blacks those runs in those games. They have beaten Australia. They hammered Australia last time, didn't they, in Argentina? That was a shocking game for us to watch as well. But I'm also on Wes' side. I'm going to stick my neck out here as well. We are going to see an Australian comeback. There has to be. There will be. They'll be prepared. They'll be ready. And if they are, I think the team selections are right. I was one when I looked at Australia last week and saw Reece Hodge in the middle. I laughed. I was like, "Are you joking?" And Vunivalu is too raw. I think he's got the right selections this week, and I think Oz are going to be prepared. Argentina are going to be fighting, but at home they're not playing. They're playing in that NRL stadium as well. Because sometimes those pitches can be slow, which will suit Argentina. You got Piper on the whistle, so I think the game's going to open up. Like Argentina, they have to bring for Argentina to win. They have to bring you into a dogfight, and I don't see that happen. I think Australia are going to give it some air, good weather, fast pitch, paper. So I think Argies are going to probably bat. I'm going to stick my neck out. Argies are going to battle a bit. It might be close for 60, 70 minutes, but I think Australia will be okay winners.
Look, at the end of the day, with there's no Marcus Kramer, there's no part. I mean, that guy, one of those players. Whenever Argentina have those blinders against New Zealand, it's like him or Pablo Matera and one of them that just have an absolute silly game where they're recording like 45 tackles. But
and those games when they did well against New Zealand, sorry quickly, Steve, it was raining now because I was remember these games clearly. It was raining, so it suited RG to get into the boxing match, and I just don't see those conditions happening on Australia, and they've just got Australia at a bad spot because Australia will respond. I think with that, I think Eddie Jones will have them ready, and I think it's going to be a tough game for the RGs.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Argentina, it's as you said, they should be doing a game before the Rugby Championship. As Michael Cheika right now, do you think he's sitting there going, we've got to win this weekend, we've got to try and give the Boks a real go, or do you think he's sitting there saying, I know that we have got a pool that suits us come the World Cup where we can get ourselves quite far, quite easily, compared to a New Zealand, France, Ireland, South Africa, for example. So do you think that he is going to be worried right now with where his team is at, or do you think he's treating this as a genuine? The Rugby Championship itself could even be the pre-season Rugby World Cup game, warm-up games could then be the sort of fine tuning and goes to the World Cup. How much do you think he cares about the results right now compared to having a real go come the World Cup?
I think he doesn't not give a single shit about the current games. He's still resting guys who play in France. All his most of his best players are still not playing. Eddie's already playing Skelton and he's flogging Arnold as well. But the RG guys who played in finals, they haven't stepped into the team yet. So it's obvious that Cheika is thinking about the World Cup. I'm sure he would love to do well. I think they will do well this weekend. They won't win. Australia, they really struggle to beat them there. But I don't think they are seeing they seeing this championship as a proper, we build cohesion, we start getting combinations together. And if we lose, we lose. We just need to start building combinations and then just try and survive until Kremer's back, because he's got a few more weeks left on his ban before he's back. But with him out, they'll at least be able to see some other guys behind Kremer that can do some combinations. But they've got Matera, they've got Gonzalez playing at 8 this week, so they're obviously going for some speed. And then just try and keep Lavanini from getting a red card as well. They can't have two guys banned.
Don't ask too much.
Yeah, but I mean, there must be a certain amount of Eddie Jones going, listen, Lavanini, like, I know you're going to get a red this year. So if you're going to get one, you actually kind of need to do it like now so that you're back for the World Cup. You can't afford to go to the World Cup. This is your last week. Yeah, like, come on, go. He's going to see that first headbutt in the first minute and be like, okay, cool, well done. Now we'll see you in France. You know, you can go straight there and start scouting out. You're making a very good point.
They need to find props. They have no props.
Yeah.
They have one front line of props. One of them's like 37, and then behind that, there's nothing. So
well,
that's I think what they.
Kodela coming in this weekend. I mean, I just see how he goes. I'm a big Bello fan. I think that I really enjoy watching. But look, I thought Lucio Tordoni played well in a losing cause last week. One of the few people who kind of looked at, and Thomas Gallo.
Gallo is always good. I love him.
He's a very. I mean, I'm very surprised he hasn't moved from Benetton to a top side. I think he could be really good. But there are obviously a couple, as you mentioned, quite a few players that they still do have missing, and very keen to see what they'll look like when all those sort of players do get back.
Especially their centre pairing. They thrive with a good centre pairing, and those guys are still resting.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's still, for example, I mean, there's no Cordero, there's no Juan Emo, for example, this weekend. They are missing quite no Chikabares, who's a really fun player to watch. A lot of players missing. But the nice thing about Argentina, as I say, I think that they've got a draw that really suits them, and a lot of them are, as I think Chris said earlier, Argentina is everyone's second team. We all know what they can do when they get going. Chris. Based on all this that we've been talking about, based on last weekend, based on not a lot of information, to be really brutally honest, given how last weekend's games went, this is what you got for us for this weekend. It is the first time we actually got a betting segment since, I think we said the 25th of May was the last time we did this. Now, before you get into this, everybody, these odds are on Boyle Sports. They have just launched in South Africa, and it's actually Chris's main market that he uses over there in the UK. So they are new to the Safa shores. So we'd really like you to go and give them their support. If you go and check out in the description, I'm going to put in the chat as well. Go and get sign up for an account. And Chris, we've got a decent season record. I don't know if you can even remember that last recap of who was playing. I think the URC was still going on back then. And then what did you got for us this weekend?
Yeah, so on the Twitter, like you say, I haven't put in the individual games. I've just given a recap on the bets that we did make, and it was a good weekend. As you can see, we are up 4.5 units, so it was actually a really nice weekend for us, mainly because we had this multi, 9-8-1 multi that came in, only half a unit on there. But yeah, that was a big winner, our biggest win to date for sure. And I was just looking back, we've done this 11 weeks. We've had, even though it's been a small win, some small winning weeks, we're on a 10 out of 11 winning week run on this, doing this with you guys. So yeah, as you can see, obviously the season record, we're up to a nice 14.75 units. Return on invest, very healthy, 67%. As I said, I'm really stoked with that. That, I'll be honest, transparency, that's my best record with it, or other records that I've got going and tracking. So you're doing well,
luck here, people. Stick with us. Stick with us.
And the thing is, I was saying, the bets that I come up on Thursday are not always the bets I personally make of the weekend, and I feel I'm limited, but maybe because I've invested so much time for you guys and everyone out there, I've come up with it. Obviously, it's come out all right, But yeah. So I'm gonna go. We could just double. It's only the 2 games. It's 1.5 units. It's obviously not. I'm not overly confident, and I'll tell you why. It is actually the South African game I'm worried about. If I was a bit more confident on the books, I would make this a 3 or 4 unit play. But I'm just gonna say I didn't say it, but we have seen this all before. I think we've hammered Australia or someone many times before, gone to New Zealand and got our asses absolutely stuffed. So we've been here before. So I'm not jumping in. I'm not jumping in and saying we're winning. But the thing is just that everyone who understands betting, the line handicap, which we spoke about, actually opened at about 11 or 12, which is very interesting. The bookies had the New Zealand very big favourites. So this is a lower odds. It's down to 7 now. So money certainly came for it, and that was certainly the wrong handicap. If you bet, plus 10 is still solid, but the value has gone, and that's why we've put it in a double. So yeah, put South Africa plus 10 on the handicap. So if Australia win by 10, we still win because we got that half point in the bag. And then yeah, as you guys heard, I like Australia, quite confident in Australia. So we'll just put that in the double. The handicap's also 7. I think Australia win probably by between 8 and 12. But let's just stay safe on Australia win, because if RGs bring them into a dogfight, it could be a 3-point game at the end of it. So yeah, let's get back onto it. Just a nice little 1.5 in the play. If it comes in, steady as she likes, we move into international season, which is one of my favorites, my success. I love internationals. So we've got months of international rugby to bet on, which I'm excited for. So let's just keep building this bank balance with you guys. And yeah, I hope if you tail, good luck. And yeah, so that's where we are.
Cool. Thank you very much, Chris. Looking forward to getting our winning streak going on Boyle Sports now again. So as I said, please do go and check that link out. And go and show them the sport. And also right now, before we sort of start wrapping up, a big thank you to Bitdefender, who's one of our channel partners. They are making it easier than ever for you to, first of all, keep yourself out against all the various cyber security issues that are going around the internet, which is quite a few these days. So if you want to try and protect yourself from all these various things, go get yourself a Bitdefender subscription. More importantly, they've got a very cool VPN which can let you watch the match this weekend using a Stansport free trial. A video on the channel on how to do that, and a link in the description. So yeah, please go and check out Bitdefender, go and support Boyle Sports, because it's through their support that we can bring you guys all the various coverage. And always go and check out Chris on Twitter at the Crow Tips. He's got I'm sure, well, I'm not too much rugby this weekend, but I'm sure there'll be a couple of extra ones that will come up. Are you looking at the under 20s tomorrow and putting a bit of money down there?
No, to be honest, I haven't had the time with my move and everything to be best looking. I haven't followed in the 20s. I saw the pig styles, the mud bath. I haven't got into it. South Africa team hasn't been strong, so that I haven't had any focus. I'll be honest, I was using Polish bookmakers for a while, and they weren't offering it, so I haven't been involved. And so no, I'll maybe follow now these games this weekend, but no idea of who's going to do what.
Fair enough. Well, we do have the Summer Nation series that they've now officially branded coming up in August, and there is, to think that we're all gearing up for a hectic World Cup. I mean, that Summer Nation series is almost as hectic. It's going to be a lot of fun coming up in August. So we'll have plenty to talk about there and then. Yeah. Right. So in terms of, before we go to our final prediction stuff like that, in terms of what's going to happen this weekend, it's going to be a lot of fun. So on Saturday, obviously we're going to go live nice and early. We're going to have a pre-game show. That'll go live at 8 o'clock SAST. Wes will be with Reza and their cups of coffee, taking you guys through the game. I cannot confirm nor deny whether there will be a bit of brandy in the coffee. That is up to them. I would guess that there might be, especially in the case of Reza, who's not here to defend himself. Those two will also be with you for the halftime show, as well as for fan camps afterwards. I'll be with you guys for the watch along. We'll also be live for Australia versus Argentina, which should be quite a fun game. And then a very weird day, because the rugby sort of finished at 1:30, so our coverage will pretty much finish at 2, and then I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with myself for the free Saturday afternoon. So we'll have to find a way to keep ourselves busy. Right, chaps, cock on the block stuff now. I want predictions, and I want people to go bold. Not as bold as I went last week, where I said on Super Brew that Argentina would win, and
you're already behind.
Yeah, no. So that's why I don't do Super Brew. Like I can't do it. It's as soon as I put something down, you might as well just put bet in the opposite, to be honest. But we'll start sort of. Let's go left to right. I want a prediction for each game. I want a score line. Doesn't have to by 7 or you can give exact scores if you're feeling confident.
Right, I'm gonna go. Not gonna go too exact, but I'm gonna say we'll start with the Boks and All Blacks. I'm gonna say the Boks win it by 4. So I'm going for a Boks win in New Zealand, but I think it's going to be a tightly contested match. And then for Australia, Argentina, I'm going to say the Aussies win by at least 12. At least 12.
At least 12. Okay. Right, Chris, are you back in the shout?
Not people aren't gonna be fans, but I'm going New Zealand by 2 and Australia by 10.
This is what happens when they emigrate. The loyalty just goes out the window. Right. So
I don't know. I hope we win, but let's see. I think we're gonna run into a big New Zealand war. So let's see how we go.
Look, I don't think a loss will be the end of the world, to be honest. Any loss we learn a few lessons, it's good for us. But
I think just to add as well, like you said, I think this Bok team, like previously, there was things we almost felt like inevitably we would lose in New Zealand. What I feel now, though, this Bok doesn't fear this New Zealand team, and that's awesome. I think we do genuinely believe we are maybe on their level or better. I think you can see it in the players, and I hope so. But you just know when it gets tight, man, these things are going to be decided on. Something dodgy might decide this game, and so I'm going to just say New Zealand by 2. But I hope we win.
Careful your comments, because Johnny Sexton's been in a hearing all day about his comments to the referees, so we hate to have to subject you to a similar process.
Well, it's Reynald on the ref, and you remember the Aussie New Zealand game?
Yeah.
Who knows if he's going to pull something out again like that? So let's see.
Can I change my answer? No,
no, you put it. You had your time. You had the opportunity. Now, with all that information that you've now been fed, what are you going with now?
Okay, I'll say Aussie and Argentina first. Australia win there. I think they'll probably pull away at the end of the match. So probably 10 points to the Aussies there. And then South Africa versus New Zealand. Let's say a draw. 18-all draw.
I like it. I like it. We did draw the last time.
Yes, I love
I think we won't be able to split these two teams. They'll forget there's a World Cup at the end of the year, and they'll play each other off the park, and we'll all be kissing our sisters at the end. 18 points.
Literally every single time I see a draw, I can't even remember exactly who it was, but it was a Super Rugby game, and I think it was a New Zealander who said on live TV, a draw is like kissing your sister. It's not great, but you'll take it. You're sitting there going, dude, there's no ways you just said that to the world.
No, you won't take it.
Come on, man. So we guys go with the draw. Okay, so I'm gonna go Boks by. I'm gonna go Boks by 7. I think we.
Ooh, big calls.
Yeah, look, you know what? I'm gonna go ballsy. And
amazing. I'd love it.
I'm gonna go odds by. I'm gonna go odds by 4. I think Argentina could stay in the fight. I think Montoya might have taken last week's very personally, and him and Pablo Mateo, they decided to pitch up then they can get going. Also, I'm still not convinced about the whole Will Skelton Richie Arnold hype, because I've yet to see Will Skelton play well in a Wallabies shirt. So until they can get that pack firing to what that pack can do, I also think that Oz bench is rubbish. Not rubbish, but it's very new.
It's a weird bench.
It's a very weird bench. So I do think that if Argentina can keep themselves in the game, don't I'd like to see a young Nicolas Sanchez masterclass off the bench, roll back the years. And get the Argentinians nice and close. Right, people, thank you very much for joining us. Rion and Chris, enjoy Saturday. Wes, we will see you on Saturday morning. And to everybody else in the comments, thank you very much for jumping in. We actually had quite a few, we have a lot more viewers than usual, so it's going to see that we're all picking up for international season. We will be back once again next week. If you're just tuning in now, this will be available obviously on the channel as well as a podcast on all your favorite streaming platforms, so go and check us out. Thank you very much. Please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. We are like less than 100 people away from 31,000 subscribers, so go and get that done.
Nice.
And we will see everybody this weekend. The captain's press conference will come out tomorrow, which will in theory be Evan Etzebeth. So at this stage we have had it confirmed, well, not confirmed, but he hasn't announced that he is leaving, so we'll have final confirmation of that, and tomorrow we'll be able to get a bit of an insight as to where he is. And as we've been saying during the week, thoughts do go out to him and his family, as well as the family of Nick Costa, who also tragically lost his life this week. So it's not been a happy week in the South African rugby community, but hopefully if there's anything that brings a country together, it is a Bok win. Bok Fridays are also back, by the way, tomorrow, everybody, in case you didn't see the announcement. So get your Bok shirts out for tomorrow.
I've got my jersey. I've got mine.
Yeah, but the thing is, so if you wear that tomorrow, what are you wearing on Saturday? You've got to get another jersey now.
I've got 4 Springbok jerseys, so don't you worry about that.
Yeah, I've got 5. I only spent about 2
I've got a
these days.
Springbok mag as well, so don't worry about it.
Fair enough. Right, cool. Thanks, everybody. Please do keep warm if you're in South Africa. If you're in the UK, put on your sunscreen. And if you're in Botswana like Wes, well, enjoy stuff like that. People, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys all next time.